Welcome back, pet parent. I just got back from the 2024 annual AAFCO meeting, as you can see here. And so today, that's what I want to talk about in today's podcast episode is, well, first we'll start out a little bit with what AAFCO is, what AAFCO isn't. There seems to be quite a bit of confusion around that on social media. Some of the most notable things that were talked about at this year's meeting and why I went. And if I'll be going back. We'll be talking about all of these things in today's episode. Very, very much has to do with not just pet food, but all food. And so incredibly interesting to me. So I hope it is as interesting to you as it is to me. There's also a lot up in the air with the future of AAFCO. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So welcome back to the Pet Parenting Reset. If you are new here, my name is Jessica. I am a canine nutritionist, a pet health coach, and a positive reinforcement dog trainer. And on this podcast, we talk about all things pet health to make sure that, when we know better, we do better. So let's start learning and educating ourselves and knowing better so that we can do better. That's what this podcast is all about. So let's get right into it. First of all, what is AAFCO? So AAFCO is the Association of American Feed Control Officials. And it is an organization that, and this is according to the AAFCO website itself, this is not my interpretation, this is what they state on their website. AAFCO is an organization that guides state, federal, and international feed regulators with ingredient definitions, lab standards, and label standards. So that brings me into kind of the first topic of today's conversation, which is what is AAFCO and what AAFCO isn't. There are a lot of people that believe AAFCO regulates pet food. There are a lot of people that believe AAFCO compliant foods are a thing. There are a lot of people that believe that AAFCO regulates pet food, that they approve pet foods, that they approve recipe formulations, and all of that is exactly what AAFCO does not do. They are not a regulatory body. They do not approve pet food regulations. They do not, there's no compliance to AAFCO. What does happen is that they provide guidelines to the FDA. The FDA chooses to adopt those guidelines, and then the states individually can say, yes, I agree with this. This is what we're going to do, or no, this is not what we're going to do, or somewhere in between. We'll do this part, but we're not doing that part, right? The states individually get to decide based on the fact that the FDA says, yes, we are going to use these profiles created by AAFCO, and this is what we recommend. So there's a lot of layers. There is a lot of bureaucracy going on, a lot of layers going on here. So just really quickly, before we move any further, one thing I want to get very, 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 very clear on is that if you see, or if someone says that a food is AAFCO approved, that is not a thing. That is not a thing. There may be companies that use that for marketing purposes. It's not a real thing. What does happen is that AAFCO says, these are the nutrient guidelines that we believe are what they term complete and balanced for dogs, for cats, for specialty pets, whatever it may be, for horses, for cattle, for pigs, for all of these different species of animals. This is what we believe these animals require to have a food that is quote unquote complete and balanced. Now, one thing that is so important to note is that they regulate feed. So they are regulating feed grade products. They are not regulating. I can't believe I just said that. They're not regulating anything. They are providing guidelines for feed grade products. Now, because so many pet parents have demanded it, there are so many food products on the market. They're also trying to use the same information, the same guidelines, the same nutrient profiles, and apply that to real food. To me, this is very problematic, but it's what we have at the moment. This is where we are. So, yeah, that's in a nutshell what AAFCO does. Now, that is all up in the air right now because there is a bill in front of Congress. They believe it's going to pass. The FDA is changing where they are getting their guidance from. Now, at this meeting, there was a lot of talk about what are we doing moving forward. And the reality is that nobody knows yet because this bill has not been passed. It looks like it's going to be. It's called the PUR Act, P-U-R-R Act. Susan Thixton, I'm sure, will be putting out a lot more information on this very soon. And if that is something you are interested in me talking more about, please let me know so that I can continue to provide you with the information that you want, not just what I want or what I want to provide. I find this all to be incredibly fascinating. So at the meeting, the FDA is always present. Again, they were present, and they voiced that they have a commitment to continuing a strong working relationship with AAFCO. What's up in the air is exactly how that's going to play out. Not if, but how is what kind of how they presented it, how I interpreted their presentation of it. So that's kind of the long and short of what AAFCO is and where we are with the future of it. It's up in the air. It sounds like there will be a future, just in exactly how that's going to look and play out. We're not 100% sure yet. The FDA did post their intentions if the PUR Act is passed on, I believe, Thursday morning. I have not had a chance to read through it yet. I don't believe Susan Thixton as of yesterday, I don't believe she has had time to completely read through it yet either. And she's kind of where I get most of my information regarding AAFCO and the FDA. So I'm kind of very interested in seeing her interpretation of this and what we should expect moving forward. So that's kind of the heavy part. Well, as far as what's happened, that was what was so heavy at this meeting, is just everybody's minds, what's going on? We don't know. There were a few other, so they still kind of just had to continue going about business as usual as best they could. The amount of red tape and bureaucracy is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Oh my goodness. I have never been involved in politics that much. I don't do political nonsense. I'm not the amount of bureaucracy is just to put it in perspective, there are so many different committees, and I get that. Some of them regarding, website development and creating marketing materials and creating presentations. And one such thing under this website development was putting a new contact form on the website for people to submit questions. And it's a pretty simple form. I'm going to oversimplify it and say it's basically like name, email, what's your question? There are a couple of other things in there, but not much. And literally, this has been in the works for months. It is still not finished. They showed a preview of the form and said this still may change. And who knows when it'll actually be added to the website. Like literally adding a form to the website sounds like it's taking or going to take close to a year. This is how ridiculous the red tape and bureaucracy is. So anyway, moving on to some of the most notable things to me that I picked up in the 2024 annual AAFCO meeting. One such thing was a recommendation for an update to an ingredient from the Ingredient Definition Committee. And this particular ingredient is calcium formate. It's a food additive. Now, they are saying that calcium formate, this is a definition of an ingredient. And in this definition, they are saying that calcium formate may be safely used in the manufacture of complete swine and poultry feeds. So these are animals that you're eating. These are animals that our pets are eating. In accordance with the following prescribed conditions. A, the additive is manufactured by the reaction of butyraldehyde, formaldehyde, calcium hydroxide, and formic acid in water, followed by purification and dried to produce a powder consisting of blah, 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 blah. There's so much more. This is insanity. This is insanity. This is the world we live in. These are ingredients in feed that are making their way through the through the food chain, excuse me. And we're using insane chemicals, including formaldehyde, to create them. And you think that that isn't going to be in the final product? Of course it is. Of course it is. So that's one thing. That was just, notable to me. Something else that was notable to me, and Dr. Kathy Alanovi pointed it out as we were going through my very first session on the very first day, and I'm all overwhelmed. The Ingredient Definition Committee, and this was moved to official, so they adopted this. So, update to meat and bone meal, which has been passed now. So, meat and bone meal is the rendered product from mammal tissues, including bones, exclusive of any added blood, hair, hoof, horn, hide trimmings, manure, stomach, and rumen contents, except in such amounts as may occur unavoidably in good processing practices. And it goes on. But what is important here is that a label can say meat meal or bone meal or meat and bone meal, and it is a product of mammal tissues. They do not have to specify what mammal. It can be any mammal. How many mammals can you think of, including the ones that are living in your home? And that does not have to be noted at all. It does not have to be, that information does not have to be provided to the consumer. All they have to say is that it is meat meal or bone meal or meat and bone meal. That's all they have to do. Now, they also adopted a new definition to a color additive. Now, this is not something that is going into pet food. However, it is going into food for salmon, so farm-raised salmon, and it is a color additive made from Antarctic krill meal. Try to say that fast. So what's really interesting about this is that in the specifications for the Antarctic krill meal, which, by the way, this is just being added to give farmed salmon the color of wild salmon, or as close to it as possible, so that it looks the way we want it to look. Antarctic krill meal must conform to the following specifications and must be free from impurities other than those named, to the extent that such other impurities may be avoided by good manufacturing practices. And those named are ethoxyquin, lead, arsenic, mercury, cadmium, fluoride, and astaxanthin. Now, I don't know about you, but there's a whole heck of a lot on that list that I do not want in my food, nor do I want any animal to be eating this stuff, including those beautiful little salmon that are being farmed. Ethoxyquin, lead, arsenic, mercury, cadmium, and fluoride. I don't want that in my food. Do you? Well, it is going into the feed for the food that you are eating, that your pets are eating. It's absolutely disgusting. There was one more thing that I wanted to point out to you that I found very, very interesting. Now, this is not really anything new. I think a lot of people may have a very basic understanding of this, that this is going on regularly, but I find it absolutely appalling. And I want to kind of explain to you how this is happening. So, in a meeting of the Ingredient Definitions Committee, they are looking to potentially start adding drugs, animal drugs for use in animal feed as ingredients. So, defining them to be used in animal feed as ingredients. Specifically, it says FDA enforcement discretion on new animal drugs for use in animal feed as an ingredient. Should the Ingredient Definitions Committee draft a recommendation for regulatory discretion of new animal drugs under an FDA enforcement discretion? So what they're saying is they are playing around with the idea of providing drugs as feed ingredients and defining them as feed ingredients so that the FDA can then provide that information to the states. To me, how I see this is that, and I understand this is happening already, they're just looking to make it more official, I guess. To me, this gives the states a basis for standardized care and utilization of medications without individualized attention. It also makes it seem like for livestock animals, food and drugs are the same thing. And they're not. I mean, does that make sense to anyone? I don't like, if that makes sense to you, please let me know. It doesn't make sense to me, but we live in such a world today of standardized care, of checkbox medicine, that we're just providing more and more avenues of this standardized care that puts more and more pharmaceuticals into every animal, into the soil, and everything, that it's like, when are we going to turn this ship around? We have to start turning this ship around. We have to right the ship. We have to right the ship. There was also a really interesting presentation on HPP, high pressure processing. I don't want to get too much into this presentation, but it was very interesting. It was very detailed, from a doctor who, let me get her information here. So Mary Grace Denow, she is from the University of Nebraska, and she is, I believe, some sort of doctor, but her whole thing is she studies and implements HPP, because I don't know if people are aware of this. It is used pretty widely in human foods, in seafood, in juices, we are all very much aware that the milk you get at a grocery store is pasteurized. That's all of these, another pasteurization technique using high pressure. There's still so much back and forth on HPP. And honestly, during the entire presentation, my brain was going back and forth between that's good, that's not good, that's good, that's not good. Like, where do we land on it? And I think where we land on it is going to be specific to you as an individual, of what you're comfortable eating and what you're comfortable feeding your pets. And I don't see, here's my take, my overall take on HPP. I don't see it as a bad thing. I do see it as something that, just like any other kill step in food we're eating or feeding our pets, we need to be aware of the risks and the benefits to all of it. To all of it. And I say that because I don't think any one processing step is perfect. I would much rather live in a world where we can just eat everything raw and whole as it is. I like the idea of cooking food for us humans, but and that's a processing step. Heating food is a processing step. So there's processing in everything all around us. Unless you're going to, I don't know, you grow your own food from like an heirloom seed in your yard, or you're on your farm, or wherever you are, and you have complete control over it, and you, I don't know, pick an apple off of a tree that you have grown, and you know that no other processing has been done to it, and you literally just bite into it. Like, that is the most pure form, I guess. But there are lots of processing steps, even a processing step that we look at as very natural, very healthy, very beneficial, such as fermentation. Is that going to agree with 100% of the population 100% of the time? Maybe not. So while I can see the pros and the cons for HPP, this was more eye-opening. I don't want to turn this into an HPP conversation. This is a conversation about AAFCO and about regulating pet food, which AAFCO does not do, but they provide the guidance that then goes forth to regulation. So why did I go? And what did I learn? Well, I went because I am forever curious. I will always be a lifelong learner. I know without a shadow of a doubt that I don't know everything, and there's no way I could know everything. But there are things that I am very interested in and very passionate about, like pet food, that I don't ever, like, I know that every chance I get to learn something new is going to make me a better teacher of this information to pet parents, regardless of the level that a pet parent is at. I mean, if you're just starting out and you still have kibble in your pantry because you're trying to figure things out, or if you've been a raw feeder for over a decade, like, there are still things that we can learn. Always. Always. And so regulating food and feed, not just because I care about pet food, which I do immensely, but because I care about the food that I have available to eat as well. And the feed that is being used to feed these animals that I am eating matters a great deal to me, because their health makes all the difference in the nutrients I get in my food. The amount of toxins, chemicals, poisons that they are being fed, that they are being exposed to, travels through the food system to me and to my pets. I care a great deal about it. So learning more about it, getting more involved is very important to me. And it may not be for you, and that's okay. That's why, like, people like me are here to tell you about it, to give you the highlights so that you can be aware, so that you can make better choices without having to go knee deep and get as involved as people like me choose to be. Granted, this was my first meeting. There are lots of people who are, like Susan Thixton, who are freaking eyeball deep in it, right? And that's important. It's important. It was so incredible to get to talk to and get to know Susan better at this meeting, as well as Dr. Kathy Alanovi and some others. And yeah, this is fascinating to me. I hope it's fascinating to you. I hope this information is helpful to you. And let me know if you want more information like it. If you want more information on the PUR Act, if you want more information on the future of AAFCO and what is happening, you have to let me know so that I can do episodes like this to update you. And yeah, by the time you hear this, I will be on my way to Super Zoo. So that's going to be incredibly fun, informative, educational, seeing what new products, like what's on the horizon for pet food is going to be so super fun. With that, though, I'm going to go ahead and leave you for the week. I hope this episode was, again, educational and informative. And I hope to hear from you. If you're not already following me on Instagram, please make sure you do. And wherever you are listening to this podcast, whatever app you are using, be it Apple or Spotify or Google or wherever, I hope that you're following the podcast. I hope this isn't your first, but if it is, please follow. And if you haven't rated the podcast, please do me a huge favor and give that the podcast a rating on whatever app you're on. It helps so much, not just for me, which is wonderful to know what you guys like, but also because it helps that app recommend this to other people like you. So we get the message out to more and more people. And that's so important. So that's something that you can absolutely do to make a difference, to get this kind of information out in front of more people. With that, I hope you and your pets have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will be back next week on the Pet Parenting Reset.